And finally, you can provide new services. Some of our partners teach subjects that we couldn't begin to hire the faculty to do. So under your banner, you can offer new services, have new technologies that you really doesn't make sense for you to invest in and build yourself. The second point about partnerships is they run the gamut from full integration, where you're jointly doing a task, maybe on the left side, then on the right side, it can be as loose as a task force or a professional association, where you just share ideas or standards or criteria. So when we think about partnership, it can be everything from almost a total integration, which you might see on a laptop computer, which may have Dell on its nameplate, but has the product of 4 or 5 different companies embedded within. One product, 4, 5, 6 companies, to just a professional association, like a business association, where a group of people come together, share best practices, share standards, share criteria. The next 2 slides, particularly for those of you who haven't thought about this before, may seem the most general and least interesting. But I would urge you to save your PowerPoint slides, because over the course of time, I think the next 2 slides may be the most valuable part of the entire presentation. What they basically are for me is like a recipe in making a dish that you make frequently. I love to cook. I have like 7 or 8 dishes that are my specialty. But before I start them every time, I take a book, a famous cookbook in the United States called The Joy of Cooking. I take it out, it's like an encyclopedia, and I always open it to the recipe. I never cook to the recipe, but if I don't take the recipe out, inevitably I forget a main ingredient and it doesn't work out. This is the recipe for any good partnership. And there are 8 different areas. They all begin with I, so it's a little bit easier to remember. So the first one is information. You cannot have a successful partnership unless the 2 or 3 or 4 parties freely share information among each other. Secondly, integration. If you're going to operate collaboratively to serve a customer, you have to integrate your standard operating procedures so that from the customer's point of view, it looks like one organization. The third thing is institutionalization. If the partners are going to last for a long time, they have to create a way to make decisions together so that you don't have, as you usually start out, we make a proposal, we design a contract or a set of operating procedures. It goes through all our chain of command, then it goes over to all your chain of command, then we come back together and we try to normalize it. There has to be a decision-making process designed for the partnership. Integrity. That all the partners treat each other with respect. Now that may sound like an idealistic and kind of interpersonal, soft criteria, but it's extremely important, particularly in partnerships which you often have, where one partner is much larger than the other. And the tendency is for the large partner to dominate the small partner. If that happens, that partnership will not last. It will not work well. So the idea that even though I may be very big and you may be very small, we treat each other like equals. That partnership will last. Interdependence. Partnerships are not a way to cover up your problems. A good partnership is seldom made, I'm failing, I'm dying here, so I'm going to partner with him because he's doing really well, and somehow that'll cover up my weaknesses. Rather, good partnerships are built strength to strength, or 2 strong organizations filling voids or gaps that are in their organization, not to cover up your own weaknesses or failings. And that is, excellence on both sides should be the intention. The 7th point is partnerships don't work unless all of the partners view the cooperative venture as important, that this is something that's essential, not just entertainment or a sidelight, but something that's central to their operation. And that importance is often translated by making tangible investments: people, money, equipment, time. Okay. So, what makes a good private partnership? The best one I can think of is one that most people don't even realize exists, and that shows you what a great partnership it is. Probably the largest retailer in the world, Walmart, Procter & Gamble, one of the largest product producers of consumer and household products in the world. On average, if you go to how many of you have ever been to a Walmart store? They're pretty amazing, right? I can't even stand to go to them. I find them intimidating. You walk in and there's just too much. On average, globally, between 25% and 30% of a Walmart store is actually run by Procter & Gamble. There are that many Procter & Gamble products in that store, and basically they have a partnership operational contract which specifies that Procter & Gamble is fully responsible for that sector of the store, from stocking the shelves to the advertising to the product arrangement. That's their job. And in fact, it's so integrated that when you pass through the cashier and your product gets scanned, that information immediately goes to Procter & Gamble and Walmart simultaneously. No barriers, no secrets. They have total information sharing. I think it's a great illustration because it just shows here, normally you would think here are two publicly held corporations who would normally you would think would be strong competitors. But their interests are so aligned in this partnership that they share totally all information, and it's proven to be enormously profitable for both of them. So that's, I think, one of the, again, the points that I think make it so successful is one, they have a common set of measures of success. Maximizing profit for both of them is the key measure, and that's working for both of them. Second is, it's easy for them to identify the key measures of performance. They can measure how many products are sold, how they're delivered, how quick products are replaced on the shelves, how clean that part of the store is, how quickly reports are delivered. All their measures of tracking are pretty clear, and therefore problems are easy to solve. And overall, the only negotiation they have to go through is how much of the cost is apportioned to each party and how much of the profit, which may be a tough negotiation, but it's not complicated. In the public sector, partnerships are not so easy because often the interests of the public sector organization and the private sector organization are very different. It's not to say either side is right or wrong, it's just different. For the most part, for the private partner in a public venture, their main motivation is to make money. That's why they're there. That's why they exist. On the public side of the partner, in general, they're not looking to make money or even maximize revenue. What they're looking to do is improve performance and make their customers, the citizens, happy. And so the two interests are not totally aligned. And unless the partnership is really structured well, that kind of mutuality that we see between Walmart and Procter & Gamble does not happen. And that, in my view, is why you often see public-private partnerships not working out well. The two parties come together out of a matter of convenience. They both see how maybe they can get what they want out of it. But as they operate more competitively than cooperatively, and outcomes are not very good. Another serious problem for public-private partnerships is that governments often deal with issues that have life and death consequences. And when something bad happens, The example up here is the space program from the United States. Again, just a quick sidelight. One of the great achievements of American government was a statement that John Kennedy made when he was president, a very audacious goal that he set in 1961, saying, this was at the time, again, maybe you guys have read about it in history books, I lived it, but the Soviet Union and the United States were locked in a global competition. And one morning, the people in the United States awoke to Sputniks circling the world. The Soviet Union beat the United States into space. And that wasn't just a competition, that was a world security issue as well. And President Kennedy at the time felt a need to one-up the other side. So he, in a